Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, coming at you with a very funny video. So you guys know that I love For Honor, and you also know that I love Warhammer 40,000. And I was presented with a unique challenge to try to integrate Warhammer 40k into For Honor. Now, of course, if you've been listening to my story For Honor and Glory, you know I've been telling a story where I've integrated the two universes, but that story is currently on a temporary hiatus while I work out some of the details for the big final battle. That is coming back, don't worry, I am working on it, but I have been trying to model some of the characters in For Honor to look like individuals or factions or groups from the world of Warhammer 40k, and I'm still in the process of it, but as of the making of this video, as of right now, I have made 8, count them, 8 different hero designs to be modeled off of Warhammer 40,000, and I want to share them with you here and now. But before we get started, I do want to say, of course, these aren't going to be one-to-one. There are going to be differences, and I know there are going to be people saying, oh, but you need to add this to make it truly... I get it, but there are limitations. This is For Honor. This isn't a complete Warhammer 40,000 customization, so bear with me. But I will be showing you the 8 things that I've done, the 8 characters that I've built in For Honor that are meant to be representative of Warhammer 40,000 groups, legions, factions, all that fun stuff. So, without further ado, let's get started with my Dark Angel Warden. Now, this one was a little bit tricky. Dark Angel Warden was a little hard to do because the problem is the Dark Angel color scheme is a very dark green. It is a very dark green, and we just do not have that in the material slot yet. We have an emerald, which is good, but the emerald is closer to salamander color than it is Dark Angel color. And spoiler warning, I have not made a salamander anything yet, so do not expect that in this video. That may come in part 2. But I decided instead of focusing on the green color scheme for the Dark Angels, I went with their Heresy era dark color scheme, because many of you may not know this, the Dark Angels, the First Legion, originally were black and red in color before they became dark green. And there is a reason behind that. There's a reason they changed this color scheme, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So you might be wondering, how do I make my Warden a Dark Angel? Well, let's walk through it. So first of all, for the helm, you want the Saurus helm. The Saurus helm, this looks very close to what a Dark Angels might wear. Now, if you do not have the Saurus helm, there is another alternative. You can always go with the Horse Lord helm, which is also a very close one that you could do. So after that one, you go with the Seminatros chest. Seminatros chest, I thought this was an excellent one. The chainmail combination makes it look very good. And then the Saurus arms. The Saurus arms. These arms look a bit like a Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine shoulder pauldron set, so I thought that one would work very well. So again, Saurus helm, Seminatros chest, Saurus arms, okay? Now for the weapon, I went with the Galford blade, the Galford hilt, and the Edge King guard. Now the reason I went with this build is because I wanted to get as close to the longsword power sword of the Dark Angels as I could, but there's no real way to make that perfectly, so I tried to go for a sword that was austere but still a little bit reserved, especially in the crossguard pattern. And I thought the two-headed eagle crossguard pattern would work very well for what we're trying to do. So that is how I made the sword. It looks pretty good if I do say so myself. Now, how do you get the rest of it? Traits aren't going to matter here. For the head, paint pattern, nada. Symbol, nada. Embossing, nada. I left that alone. For the ornament, you want the Daubeney's Shame ornament, because a lot of the Dark Angels helms, like the really cool looking ones, have these wings on the helm, so you want the Daubeney's Shame on this one, okay? For the right shoulder, I did the 2 and 2 paint pattern, which you get right away with Warden, so you should already have it. And I used my Dark Angels emblem, and I may have to do a video on how I put that together. That was not easy to put together, but I may have to teach you guys how I did that. So we'll try that sometime, and I'll try to teach you guys how I made that. But I used my Dark Angels emblem for that. No embossing. For the right shoulder, I use the vertical halves, which again you have right away. And then for the symbol, I use the sword and laurel, which you get from playing ranked matches. The sword and laurel is probably the closest symbol you can get to matching the Dark Angel symbol, which is a sword with wings. This is probably the closest you're going to get. So if you can't make the emblem, get this one. It is the closest you can get, I feel like. But sword and laurel is what I put there. Now, for the material, obviously I used tar. You want tar because of that bright sheen. It's a beautiful, glistening sheen, and you want that. For the back, once again, we use the Y paint pattern, which you get at Reputation 4 level 9, so it shouldn't be hard to get. And again, you use the Dark Angels emblem there. Again, I'll have to do a video showing how to build that. And then for the standards, I went with the Pentagon paint pattern, which you get at level 13. So again, should be very easy to get. No symbol, no embossing, just leave it as is. And for the color scheme, I know you're all excited for this one, the Assassin's Creed Father of Understanding color scheme. It just works, guys. It just works so well for what we're trying to do. And thus you have a pretty decent Dark Angels Warden. Now, I was told by some that it would be better to do a Dark Angels Black Prior, and I may experiment with that in the future and see if I can't do that, but for what we have right now, I thought this one would work best. And I said that traits don't matter, but obviously since we're making a Space Marine, you're probably going to want to go with a male. But if you wanted to go a female, here's what a female Dark Angel would look like. Okay? Okay, now you've seen it. All right, so for feats, Conqueror. For those who don't know, the Dark Angels are the legion that you call in when you're up against a apocalyptic threat. These guys were the first legion and the ones who you sent in when you wanted something deleted. I did not say when you want something defeated. I did not say when you wanted something stopped. I did not say when you wanted something subjugated. I said the Dark Angels are the ones you send in when you want something Control-Alt deleted, removed, erased. They're the kind of legion you send in when the Emperor said, this thing that exists, I don't want it to exist anymore. I want it to no longer be remembered. The Dark Angels are who you sent in. So Conquer, I think, works best. Thrilling comeback. Let's face it, the Dark Angels went through a rough period because Caliban, their home planet, was destroyed. The Lion went to sleep for over 10,000 years. Things were looking really bad for them, but they're making a comeback now with the Lion's return. So Thrilling comeback just works. Pugno Mortis. The funny thing about the Dark Angels is they have all the nicest toys. They have the best toys of the Imperium. So of course they're going to have a few grenades in their back pocket, okay? And you might be saying, but Raven, all of the Space Marines have grenades. These are special grenades, okay? And then Morale Booster. When the Dark Angels hit the field and they scream for the Lion, everyone's getting a morale boost, okay? Everyone's ready. Everyone's pumped. So these feats just work the best for our boys in black. All right, now for executions, I use Deep Hacking. Use it or lose it. Manus Manum Sakat. And Alarius' Wrath. Because when you just need to punch a heretic. So, Deep Hacking, Use It or Lose It, Manum Manum Sakat, and Alarius' Wrath. The first three I use because they show great swordsmanship skills, which the Dark Angels were known for. But Alarius' Wrath just because I feel like they are very frustrated with the galaxy right now, and they just want to take out some anger. Am I right, folks? I'm right. All right, for emotes, you want Blade Homage and Sword Point. Again, showing that really good swordsmanship skill and dexterity, and then free roam you get Victory and I Lost. Now this one seems a little bit odd to do, but I thought Victory would work well because hey, when they win, they win. But then you remind them that there's the Fallen, and then they just get really upset about that. Like, do not remind the Dark Angels about the Fallen. At best, they'll get upset. At worst, they'll kill you for it. So that's not hyperbole. That they will do that. All right, for signature, I would say On My Honor is a good one. That is definitely a good one. Or you could go with For the Hilt. You could also go with Allegiance to Ashfeld, actually. That one wouldn't be a bad one. All right. For signet... Oh, sorry. And then for effects... There is no need for any effects. You don't need any effects on the Dark Angels. They're cool enough on their own. And that is how you build a Dark Angels Warden. What do you guys think? You like the Dark Angels Warden? You like that? You like that? I think it looks cool. I hope you do. I hope I get to see some Dark Angels Wardens running around in future games. And yes, I will at some point do a video teaching how to build the Dark Angels emblem because it took me some time to do. And it is not perfect. I'm aware it's not perfect. It's a little clunky, but hey, it's the best I could do. All right? All right, so moving on, after that, we have my Lawbringer. We have a Custodian Lawbringer. This one was fun to build. This one was very unique. Now, for those who don't know, the Custodians are not a Space Marine Legion. They are better than the average Space Marine. Now, not to say that a Space Marine couldn't beat them, but you have to be a Space Marine with a lot of plot armor to beat a Custodes. The Custodes are the Emperor's personal guard. They were created before the Astartes, and they are functionally immortal. Their whole goal is to defend the Emperor and his throne from all threats. And these guys are the best of the best, okay? Gotta love the Custodes. So, how do you make your Lawbringer into a Custodes? Well, first of all, you need the Aquitas helm. The Aquitas helm, because that eagle look is just too perfect. Then you want the magnanimous chest. The magnanimous chest. It's so solid, guys. It's so solid. And finally, the perfidosis arms. The perfidosis arms. It looks so clean. You want that clean look because the Custodes are clean. They are clean people. You know, that's just what it is. That's how the Custodes operate. Now, for the weapon, the reason I chose Lawbringer to be a Custodes is because the Custodes are famous for carrying around these huge power bolter pole arms that function as halberds, so this just works too well. I went with the Elazar axe because you want that long, broad axe blade, the Daylight Salvation shaft, and the Golden Eagle spike. And thus you have a really cool, really ornate looking weapon that I think just fits the Custodes overall. Looks pretty good. All right, let's move on to traits. Traits aren't going to matter. You can't even make it a female to see how that looks, so don't even worry about traits. For head, nothing. Don't do anything to the head. It's fine. For the ornament, this was a little tricky. I went with the eagle shield because, you know, the eagle look is just fine. The eagle shield is what I went with, which you get from the Flying Leaves mythic outfit. Now, you don't have to do anything with this. You could just leave it alone if you wanted, but I thought the eagle shield looked best. But if you don't want the eagle shield, but you still want an ornament, there are options. You could go the Avenging Angel look. The Avenging Angel, which is decent. You could also go with the Regal Death to get that plume in there. And I think those are the only ones that you could feasibly do that would be on. Oh, no, there's the Crimson Crest too. The Crimson Crest would also be a good option if you really wanted to. Okay? But I went with the Eagle Shield. Okay, so next, right shoulder. No paint pattern, no symbol, but you want the rose embossing. The embossing rose looks good. A sword through a rose looks pretty awesome. So I thought that one would work. And then for the left shoulder, no paint pattern, no symbol, but you want the Skull 1 embossing, which you get at Reputation 17, level 20. So I mean, that just looks like something that Custodes would have on his shoulder, if I'm being real honest. So I would definitely go with that one. For the chest, oh, I'm sorry, folks, I'm getting ahead of myself. For the material, you want gold, but I figured that would be pretty obvious. Now, some of you may be saying, what about stuff like Torchlight? Torchlight's not gold enough. These are the boys in gold. And as for Marigold, no, too yellow. You want gold. Gold is fine. Gold is okay. There's nothing wrong with gold, guys. Now for chest and back. For chest and back, no paint pattern, no symbol. You want the Paisley 1 embossing because it's going to add that very nice, ornate, Baroque texture, which is going to look very good. And you get that at Reputation 3, level 20, so it shouldn't be too hard to get. For your standards, no paint pattern, but you want the Rising Eagle symbol, which you get from a Reputation 3, level 3, and no embossing. Now, why did I choose this? Honestly, I would have preferred to get hold of a two-headed eagle, but you can't. Those are more difficult to get. So I went with the Rising Eagle, which I think works just as well. It's very, very nice. And now for the color scheme. This one was difficult. Me and Lork had a long time picking on this one, but we finally decided on Ripe Plum, which you get from the Peacock Elite outfit. This was not easy. The Custodes are known for doing gold and red, rosé kind of color scheme, kind of this imperial color scheme, and not a lot of color schemes will capture it well enough. So we went with Ripe Plum, and this looks pretty stinking good. All right, now for the feats. For the feats, Harsh Judgment. If a Custode points at you with anything less than praise, you know you effed up. You should feel bad, and so your stamina is going to go down as a result. For Juggernaut, look, try stopping a Custodes. I challenge you. You will not find it easy. In fact, you'll find it quite impossible. That's why they're a Juggernaut. Pugno Mortis. Again, the Custodes have all the nice toys, which is why they also get Igneous Ember. They have even more nice toys, okay? They get all the nice shit. Plus, their halberd is supposed to be able to shoot as well as cut. So just imagine these guys just loaded up with bombs all over the place. I could see that working. So that is why you have the feats the way you do. For executions, we have the Stomp, Cyclonic Justice. Vis Morales. And Stro Pro Veritate. I used a lot of executions here that I thought would show a lot of skill with the halberd, but also just skill in combat and brutality, like the Stomp being very brutal, the Sto Pro Veritate being very brutal, but Vis Morales and Cyclonic Justice showing fierce control and discipline. I thought those would work very well for him. For emotes, I went with Glorious and Recognition, because these guys are honorable to the core. For combat, I use my Liege and Mate Virtute. Mate Virtute and my Liege both being very respectful, but at the same time, you're not getting through me. For signature, I went with Sharper Edge. I just think Sharper Edge works for them. They're always maintaining their weapons and armor. That's what they do. It's how they roll. It's why the Custodians are the GOAT. And then finally, the effects. For Idle, you want Hellfire. In fact, you want Hellfire for the free roam and combat emotes too. Now, this was a little tricky, but me and Lark talked about it, and we thought that this would work very well because the fiery wings kind of suits them. We think that, you know, the idea of them being all about that fire and glory, like it looks sick on the Custodians. But for execution, Thunderous Rage. We thought this would work well because they are empowered by the Emperor. Wouldn't you say that's correct, my friends? I'd say that's correct, my friends. So we have Thunderous Rage for the executions. And then for Idle and free roam, you have Hellfire. And that is how you build the Custodian Lawbringer. Originally, I made my Lawbringer the Dark Angel, but as some of my fans pointed out, it didn't quite look quite right because I was using the emerald color scheme. And again, they pointed out that looks too much like a salamander, so we changed it, and now we have a Custodian Lawbringer. What do you think? Will you be playing the Custodian Lawbringer? Will you try to make this yourself? Let me know. Would love to see what you guys make. And now let's move on to the next one, and the next one is the Ultramarine Centurion. I did a whole video showing this off, so let's talk about Ultramarine Centurion. The Ultramarine is the 13th Legion, run by Robute Gilliman. Robert Gurley Man. No, it's a Robot Gorilla Man. I'm getting this wrong. No, Robute Gilliman. The most un-Roman name I've ever heard, running the most Roman Space Marine chapter I've ever heard of. Yes, that's right, we're talking about the Ultramarines, the Blue Boys, the Smurfs. Look, I'm not a huge Ultramarine fan. I like them fine. I think they're a little overrated and a little oversaturated in the overall lore and overall presentation, but whatever. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about why Centurion makes the ultimate blueberry Smurf boy. So, let's talk about it. For the helm, you want Florentis Helm. This was hard because there are some helmets like perhaps the Captoris helm, which looks pretty good. You could do the Hippocrene helm, which looks pretty good. The problem was, as good as these look, they just look too off. There's something about him that just isn't working for me. There's something about, and I can't put my finger on it, so I decided to just let his face be shown and show that chiseled Giga Chad jawline of the Ultramarine soldier. So we have Florentis Helm, Studium Chest, and Orcus Arms. Now, I will be 100% honest. I didn't want the Orcus Arms. I wanted the Studium Arms as well because that looks so sick. But I don't have them yet. I can't get them yet. And I am sad. Feel bad for me. So I couldn't get those. That's very sad. But we got the Orcus Arms, which are pretty close. And don't those shoulder pauldrons just look like something a Space Marine would wear? Pretty close, right? So I thought that worked very well. Also, look at that big skull right there on the arm. Look at that big skull. That is so Ultramarine. Okay, now for the weapon. You want the Regal Blade, Regal Hilt, and Regal Guard. Not a lot of... You don't have to be crazy about that. The Regal set is probably the best set for the Centurion anyway. And it just works very well. Plus, it's blue. How can you go wrong with blue? So, yes, the Regal weapon is your best choice. Now, let's go over traits. You're not going to be able to make a female, so don't even bother worrying about that. For skin color, since you can see the face, I went with the most light skin color you can, although there's no need to do that because, honestly, the Ultramarines have a diverse group of guys in them. In fact, a lot of Space Marine chapters have very diverse colored skins, but I just went with the pasty one because that's the one that's so commonly seen. It's not a big deal. Do with it what you want. With the left arm, no paint pattern, no symbol, but you want that Skull 1 embossing, which you get at Reputation 17, level 20. It just sings to me of Warhammer 40,000. For the ornament, you want the Proud Griffin ornament, which you get from the Questing Knight Elite outfit. Questing Knight Elite outfit. Now, you don't have to go with that one. You could go with the Gilded Tribune, which is pretty decent as well. You could go with heavy metal. You could go with century. That one works well. And you could even go with lion's mane. In fact, lion's mane is a very good one. I consider that one my second option. The problem is the crest is a little too small for me, so I went with the proud griffin. But again, go with what you want out of those options. For the right shoulder, we went with no paint pattern, but we went with the Ultramarine emblem. And again, I will make a video on how to make this emblem. This one was a lot easier to make than the Dark Angels one, so I really look forward to sharing that one with you. In fact, if you watch one of my streams, I made it on stream, so check that out. I will again make a video dedicated to it. For the left shoulder, exact same thing. Exact same thing. No paint pattern, Ultramarine symbol, and no embossing. Okay, for the material, cobalt. Easy. You can't go wrong with going cobalt. Am I right, fellas? Cobalt is what you want to do. For chest, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Don't bother with anything, because this chest that we have is so fine already. It's already very much designed in a way that gives it some austerity and texture, so I don't need an embossing to add anything to it. And I feel like if I threw the symbol of the Ultramarine on that again, it would be overkill. But then again, knowing the Ultramarines, overkill and grandstanding is what they do best. So, sorry, like I said, they're not my favorite. I have some problems with them, but they are still good. I'm not saying they're not good. No one assume I'm an Ultramarine hater. Sorry. Moving on. Standard. I went with the Pentagon paint pattern, which you get at level 13, not a problem. And then, of course, the Ultramarine emblem on the back. Again, that is very important. And again, I will make a video showing how to do that. Embossing, nothing. Don't bother with the embossing. For color scheme, you want the Knight Aegis, which you get from playing ranked matches. So you better be grinding in ranked to get this paint color scheme, because it is perfect for what you want for the Ultraman. The Ultramarines. Okay, so on from that, let's go to abilities. What have we got for abilities? First, Bounty Hunter. The Ultramarines are very good at finding where they need to be. When there's a problem, the Ultramarines know where to get to it. Now, I would say that Bounty Hunter is fine, but I could also say go with Body Count. Body Count would also work, but I just thought of these, Bounty Hunter just fits the best. Inspire. Let me say this. If there's one thing the Ultramarines are really good at, it's making a spectacle of themselves. They want the world to know that they're cool. They want to let everyone know, hey guys, by the way, we're better than you. Not saying you're bad, we're just saying we're better than you. Thank you, Matt Ward. But point being, the Ultramarines want to make everyone know that they're strong, they're tough, and they're the coolest thing that ever came to the galaxy since the Emperor himself. So they're going to inspire everyone around them. It just makes sense. It's how they operate. It's what they do. And you can thank Gilliman for that. Oh, Gilliman. Then Second Wind. Here's the thing. Again, their Primarch is back. They can get some health back. They're allowed to do that. They can take a breather. They're okay. They've got Girly Man back, so they deserve that Second Wind. And then Phalanx. Okay, look. Okay. Honestly, Phalanx is just the best feat that the Centurion has on his 4th feat. Okay, so just do that one. It doesn't even have to tie into the Ultramarines. Just do that one. For executions, I went Carpe Mortem. It takes guts. The Ides of March. And Gladius in Jugula. Now, the reason I chose these is because they make great use of the Gladius and show a lot of skill and discipline. And I chose It Takes Guts because I just imagine him leaning in as he stabs him and whispering, "Courage and honor." Or he could be whispering, "From a crag." Or he could be screaming in his ear, "For Ultramar!" But I mean, we don't worry about that. We don't judge him for that. You know, he's proud of that. He's very proud of being an Ultramarine, as I'm sure they all are. So all of those I think work really well for who he is. For emotes, Respect and My Lord are the best ones for combat. Again, showing that respect that we would expect from the Ultramarines, and the Good Life. Because, again, they're Ultramarines. Of course they live the good life. They are very good at, organizing and running governments. They're very good at making laws and regulations. Maybe not so good at following them, but they're very good at making that. And then the intellectual, because let's face it, if they're better than you, they're probably smarter than you too. If you couldn't tell, I have some problems with the Ultramarines. And not that I'm biased, but signature, intimidate. Okay, I will say this. When an Ultramarine shows up, whether you like him or not, you gotta admit, they can be a little intimidating. They can be a little scary. I mean, let's be honest. If you piss off an Ultramarine, at best, you'll get away with a very stern talking to, and at worst, actually, that might be worse too. I think I'd rather be killed by an Ultramarine than get a stern talking to, because they can't shut up. I'm sorry. I know I'm being too mean. I'll stop. For effects, honestly, for the effects, it's pretty easy. You want to go Radiance, because I get the Radiance gives off this gleam that I really think fits the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines, look, I'm not saying this to be mean now, I'm actually being serious. The thing about the Ultramarines is they're pretty standard. There's nothing about them that truly stands out that makes it like, oh wow, this is so very much Ultramarine. So I feel like Radiance gives off this glow that makes it so that it doesn't really stand out as anything basic, but it still gives them something cool to look at. So that's why I went with Radiance on pretty much everything but the free roam and combat, which I didn't give anything. And that is how you make your Ultramarine Centurion. And I know I pretty much made fun of the Ultramarines through this whole thing. And I want to say, for the record, I don't actually hate the Ultramarines. The problem I have with the Ultramarines is I feel like they saturate all the games, all the media. They're just on everything. And I know they're cool. Don't get me wrong. I think they are cool. I think Gilliman is cool. I think a lot of what they do is cool. But they're oversaturated, overpopularized, and I really think they're overrated. But that is just my opinion. I still think they're cool. So what do you guys think? Will you be making your Centurion an Ultramarine? Will you be making him a blue boy? Let me know down in the comments. And now let's move on to the next one. Our first Traitor Legion, a Death Guard Warmonger. I am excited to talk about this one. I thought that Warmonger should be a Death Guard from the moment I saw her, because her abilities just fit. Her ability to corrupt and plague the enemy team is very much in line with an acolyte of Nurgle. Now, some of you will be pointing out, hold on, Raven, Warmonger is a lady. There are no ladies in the armies of Nurgle. And to that I say two things. Number one, like I said, it's for honor. I'm limited here. We have to go with what we have. And two, you don't know, maybe Nurgle made a gender change disease. And it worked in One Piece on Trafalgar Law, didn't it? So it's not beyond possibility. We could just say this is Nurgle's attempt at a new disease, and somewhere Aisha's looking at this one, what you doing? So anyway, that's my headcanon. You can't convince me otherwise. So instead, I'll convince you how to make this. So for the helm, you want the Ramnusia alternate helm. I think that helm looks... Okay, honestly, it looks a lot like the Queen from Harry Potter, the first movie. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying it looks good. I think it looks like what could be worn by a Space Marine. Then you want the Melanie chest. I like the Melanie chest because it's one solid plate, which I think works for a Space Marine. But I also like how it has a very corrupted looking cape, which I wanted. I wanted a cape that looked like it was corrupted and torn up and sickly. So that I think was the best option there. And then for the arms, I went the Asbestos arms. The Asbestos arms look corroded, corrupted, and very nicely textured. So I thought that would work very, very well. Now for the weapon, I went with the Belligerent Tyrant Blade, hilt, and guard, because let's face it, that sword looks like it came right out of Nurgle's garden. I mean, you can't tell me it doesn't. That looks like a poisonous blade right there, which I think works very, very well. So that is how we made the weapon. Now let's move on. For traits, well, you're stuck as a chick, so deal with it. For color scheme, you could go with anything really, but I went with the default because it's just tan enough to blend in very nicely. All right, so for the chest, nothing. You don't need anything. Honestly, that texture is already perfect. There's nothing you need to add. I think that this works just fine. You don't need anything else. Look at the way it looks corroded and bent and aged. I think that looks very, very good. So you don't need anything here. For the ornament, I went with the Hell Driver ornament. And no, not Hell Diver. That's a different game. Hell Driver ornament, which you get from the battlefield during the Monster of the Otherworld events week 1. If you do not have this, do not worry. You can also go with the Knots of Prominence, which looks fine too, or the Thorns of Fortitude. The Thorns of Fortitude may seem like an odd one, but keep in mind, Nurgle has a garden, so who's to say he doesn't have some poisonous flowers in there? Just ask the Apothecary Diaries. All right, now, right shoulder, nothing. You already got an ornament on it. Why do you need anything? Left shoulder, you already got an ornament. Why do you need anything on it? Pretty easy, right? You don't need to get all creative. Just leave it as is. For the material, corroded green for very obvious reasons. The corroded green is not only the color you want for the Acolytes of Nurgle and the Death Guard proper, but it just looks sick. it looks gross, which is exactly what you want. For the standard, I went with the Winter's Grass paint pattern, which you get from an outfit unlocked at Reputation 12. So get your Warmonger up to Reputation 12 and you'll get access to this. I like it because it looks like deep vines growing up and trying to grasp at you, which I think works very well. For symbol, nothing. For embossing, nothing. For the back, no paint pattern, but you want the spiked skull symbol. There is no way to create the Death Guard emblem in this game, bar from using your emblems to create 3 skulls next to each other. So the closest you're going to get is the spiked skull, which honestly looks great as it is. So get that spiked skull symbol, no embossing necessary. Doesn't it just look so nice on that cape? Oh, it looks so good. I absolutely love it. Now for the color scheme, you ready for this? Sylvan Moss. Guys, you can get this one now if you don't already have it. It is available now in the Legacy Battle Pass. Get this while you can. Sylvan Moss is the paint pattern to use here, so make sure you get it. Now, some of you might be saying, why didn't I use Sylvan Foliage, or why didn't I use Iron Legion? Because this is just better. I don't feel the need to explain myself. Nurgle has spoken. All right, so now, for the feats. Just use all of Warmonger's basic feats because all of them are about spreading the gifts of Nurgle. You want to make everyone on the battlefield sick. Sick because they're corrupted, sick because they're having to fight you, and sick because they've got the common cold. Let's be honest, Warmonger, when she showed up in the game, COVID was going around, so Nurgle sent War Mommy to us. It's time for her to prove it. Okay, so for executions, we go with... Oh, hold on. There we go. We go with Horkos Pharmakos. Horkos Shave. No enemies. And Obliteration. Okay, so why did I choose these? Horkos Shave and Obliteration both show a lot of strength and power in the attacks. And the Death Guard are a very strong Space Marine chapter. They are very tough. In fact, I chose no enemies because look at this. Girl's being cut up, but she doesn't care. She doesn't even flinch. And if there's one thing the Death Guard was known for, it was their endurance. They were actually noted for being able to take more punishment than most of the other legions could. That's why they went to very difficult, hazardous realms and places and fought through it, because Mortarion and his boys prided themselves on being tough, being durable, being able to withstand anything. So I thought that would fit. And then Horkos Pharmakos, I'm giving you a treatment of Nurgle's poison. Have a taste of that. Ain't it lovely? And then watch them twitch and die. So those work well. For emotes, Spider Spew. You're gonna vomit when you serve old Nurgle boy. You're gonna vomit when you serve the grandfather, so make sure you're spewing up spiders. And then Fierce Aplomb, because you're just that cool. For combat, Thespian Salute and Mocking Bow. I just think those work well. For signatures, We Are Immortal. I think this one works very well because you're literally walking out, pulling a knife out of you and saying, what, you thought that would stop me? And that's very much something the Death Guard would say. They're going to take a stab to the gut and say, whatever, and then toss it aside. They do not care. And then for effects, you want Swirl of Insects for the idol. If you don't have this, I apologize. And for executions, you want Swamp Creatures. Now, honestly, this is a little odd because it's the samurai one where these little kappa heads pop up, but the swamp gross ground beneath you just looks like you're walking in Nurgle's garden, so I just thought that would work. For free roam, do the exact same thing, and for combat, do the exact same thing. And that is how you make the Death Guard Warmonger. This one's one I'm especially proud of because it just fits so well. But what do you guys think? Will you be making your Warmonger a Death Guard? Do you think that this is a creative one? Let me know down in the comments section. I look forward to seeing more Death Guard War Mommies running around. And now let's move on to the next one, another Chaos Warrior, the World Eater Berserker. This one was a little tricky, not because it was hard to pick. Of all of the Vikings and characters in For Honor, I thought Berserker would just work well as a World Eater because of how wild they are. So let's talk about how to build them. For the helm, this one was a little tricky. I honestly would have liked something different. I would have liked this one, the Skelfa helm, but I don't have that one yet. So I went with the Skogermader helm because I could add a little extra red in the hair because the hair color changes based on the paint pattern. I then went with the Horkos Frelasari chest. I like this one because of the extra armor that it gives. And then I chose the Halbard arms because not only because of the big pauldrons, but also because of the little spikes in it. Now, I might have chosen this one, but the problem is it looks more like leather, and this, while leather, it looks like it's protruding a bit more, while this one looks like it's just hugging the arm, so I thought this one worked a little bit better. So that's why I chose this one. For the weapons, I went with the Gripping Beast set. Honestly, you could also go with the Invincible Kovedi right head, but I just like this one. I don't know, there's something about it that made me really like it the most, but you go with what you want on that one. Let's be honest, a Khornate Berserker is just going to pick up whatever weapons he wants and just go to town with them. That's the way he works. So as long as it's an axe and as long as it butchers the enemy and spills blood for the Blood God, that is what matters. So let's move on. For traits, I mean, you could make it a chick. Actually, honestly, that looks kind of good. I'm getting a little heretical here, but that's kind of the point of being a world eater, isn't it? It is a little heretical, but yeah, that looks kind of fire. Hot Berserker mama right there. Okay, back to the mail. All right, for skin color, default is fine. Chest and back. I went with the Dire Storm paint pattern because it looks ragged and destructive, just like what the world eaters are supposed to be. You get that from the Rabid Wolf Elite outfit. For the symbol, go with fangs, which you get at Reputation 30. You got to understand, the emblem of the World Eaters looks like two giant jaws opened up ready to bite down. This is as close as you're going to get. So fangs is your best choice. Do that. Do it. No embossing. For ornament, this is a little tricky. I went with the Grogalder because, as Lark pointed out, the horns are something that you would definitely expect with a Khornate demon or warrior. However, you could also go with Blade Line, which I think works very well as well. For the right shoulder, no paint pattern, but you want the fangs again. Throw the fangs on there and then no embossing. For the left shoulder, I went with the Gaule's Breath because it gives kind of a burning look, and then go with the fangs again and then no embossing. For the material, Cinnabar. Like you needed anything else. Like Cinnabar, just get it, make it red. If you want to do a Khornate Berserker, make it red. Make it crimson. Make it the color of blood. For the right arm, I went with the Tattoo Viking Cross. Now, I would also go with the symbol Storm of Flames. Either one works. Storm of Flames and Viking Cross both work well, but I prefer the Storm of Flames. Now, for the left arm, you want the Ghost Recon Wildland symbol because it looks like a skull, but there are a lot of other skulls. The reason I chose this skull is because it's a little faded. I like the faded look. I think it's good. But there are plenty of other skulls to choose from if you don't have that. Like you could go with the Apocryph Trance, which looks very fine and demonic. You could go with the Voices of Kaidan, which looks very fine and demonic. You could go with the Uninvited Misfortune 3, which looks like a burning eyeball. Any of those work fine. For the colors, Dead by Daylight Dark Lullaby. If you played the Dead by Daylight event, this is what you want to get. But don't worry, if you don't have that, there is a fine alternative with the Assassin's Creed Father of Understanding, which isn't quite as good, but it's pretty close. So definitely go with that. That is your best bet. Okay, now for the feats. Bounty Hunter. Because when a Berserker, well, when a Khornate Berserker finds his target, there is no escaping. He's going to hunt you down wherever you are and gut you like a fish. Doom Banner. When you hear someone scream blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne, you automatically get a little shiver running down your spine because, as Pancreas No Work would say, I say this with hatred in my heart, Khornate Berserkers are good in melee. And they are. So immediately become afraid because the Doom Banner has been dropped. And then Fury and Berserker because duh. Just duh. That's why. All right. For executions, Absolute Frenzy. Head Cracker. Move it along. And Blood Rage. So the reason I chose these, Absolute Frenzy, I know it's an awful one. I know a lot of people don't like this execution, and I understand why. But it does fit. The screaming out of nowhere like that does fit with a Khornate Berserker, so I thought that worked. And the rest are all just savage executions, which make very big use of wide, powerful movements with the axes, which I think just work. For emotes, chest beat and handled, because I'll be real honest, there are just no real emotes that I think work best for this. So I went with Axe for Victory, Despair, chest beat, and handled. I want more crazy stuff. I suppose you could go with Liftoff, but I don't know. You'd have to spam it to make it work. And then signature, I went with Wild Cheer. Whee! I figured Wild Cheer would work best. And then finally for effects. This was tricky. What you really want with a Khornate Berserker is a lot of fire effects. You want burning things. But I don't have a lot of fire effects, and I didn't want to waste any more steel, so I went with the next best thing. I went with Heretic Acolyte for Idol, because that looks like a Khornate cultist right there. I went with Heavenly Mirage for the executions, because it looks like he's possessed by a Khornate demon. And I went with Raining Inferno for all of his emotes, because look at him. Look at that fire showing up. Look at that fire. So that is how I build my Khornate Berserker. So what do you guys think? Do you guys like this one? Are you going to build it yourself? This one was kind of fun to make. Me and Lark had some fun putting this one together. So let me know down in the comment section if you're going to make that, and we shall now move on to the next one. Hope you guys are ready for this. I was requested to do this one, actually. A Blood Angel Kyoshin. Now, I thought about doing a Blood Angel Shaman, but because they bite their opponent when they're bleeding. And the Blood Angels are known for being vampiric, but at the same time, Kyoshin just fits a bit better. For one thing, he's male, and for another thing, he's just way more annoying with his blooding. You know, he's just way more annoying, and he has an easier time bleeding you, I feel like. So let's talk about how to build him. For the helm, you want Onmitsu alternate helm. The Onmitsu alternate helm. Then you want the Shrouded Massacre chest, and then you want the Unkai arms. Now, why did we go with this? We went with the Onmitsu alternate helm because you can change the hair color. One thing that my brother explained to me is that it is very common for the sons of Sanguinius to be blonde hair, blue eyes. Now, the blue eyes might be a little difficult to do because many of the helms that the Kyoshin has, their eye color can change blue, but only if the paint pattern is blue, and we need red to make this work. So we decided to compromise and make a blonde-haired Kyoshin, because we want that blonde-haired Sanguinius. For the weapon, according to my brother, you want gold and red, so we went with the Masterful Chusei Guard, Deceitful Komotsu Scabbard, and Deceitful Komotsu Blade, because that makes a very nice crimson, black, and red weapon. Pretty nice, huh? All right, let's talk about what the traits you need. Body type, fine. Skin color, default. Nothing really to go be crazy about. Chest. You want the owl head paint pattern, which you will have right away. You want no symbol, and you want the weaved plates embossing, which you get at Reputation 23, level 20. Pretty easy, it adds a nice texture to it. Now you might be saying, Raven, I'm having trouble seeing the paint pattern. You will see why. For the ornaments, there were a lot of options you could go with, but I went with Fallen Justice because it puts an angel on your arm. And if there's one thing you learn by reading the book Dante, it's that the Blood Angels really care about understanding the Great Angel. Oh, all is for the will of the Great Angel, so we must put an angel on everything. So obviously you want that angel there, so that is why you want the Fallen Justice. And anyone who's read the Dante book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't pretend like you don't. Don't live in denial. For the right shoulder, nothing. For the left shoulder, nothing, because it's covered up by the Great Angel. Why would you wish to see anything beyond the Great Angel? And if you think I'm being over the top with that, no, actually listen to the book. Listen to the audiobook. That's how they talk. That's how they say it. I'm not... You know if you know! All right, material. Gold. Why? Because that's what affects the hair. And if we want a blonde-haired Kyoshin, we got to go with that. That's what we got to go with. So gold is essential. You need the gold. Like that's not even debatable. You need gold. For the back, again, owl head, which you get from level 1. No symbol, no embossing. Not necessary. For the legs, I went with the Shallow Valley, which you get at Reputation 6, level 6. And the Inquisition's Rule 3 symbol, which you get from the Death by Metal event pass. The reason I chose this one is because it looks like a sword dipped in blood, which, you know, that just fits the Blood Angels, and I thought that would do very well. And now for the color scheme. You're about to see a very big secret. You ready for this? You might be shocked. Don't be shocked. Bloodbath. which creates a pure red color scheme, which allows this to look like pure red armor, which is exactly what we wanted. So to be perfectly honest with you, it wouldn't really matter which paint pattern you use as long as it's one of the reputation paint patterns that only require 2 colors. So as long as you have that, it really doesn't matter. So yeah, there you go. That's how it works. Congratulations, Bloodbath is what you want. All right, now for the feats. I would go Kaguru, Hikarimori, and Mugen Hoyo. Now, why these? Kagero and Hikarimori benefit you for bleeding them. This gives you the ability to bleed, and this allows you to heal from the bleeding, which is very vampiric. Tough as nails. Let me say this about Sanguinius's blood angels. They are tough. And when they go into the Black Rage, they are even tougher. Okay? Stay away from them. They're crazy when they get there, but they are tough as nails. Now, Mugen Hoyo. I just get this idea that when they go into the Black Rage, and they start seeing Horus and everything, they can actually scream, Horus! And then everything freezes in place and takes damage just from that. So definitely. The other option is Fear itself. Fear itself is another good one because once they go into the Black Rage, everyone's terrified of you. Get the F away from them. So honestly, Mugen Hoyo or Fear itself would be fine. Okay? Okay. Executions. Savage Sandstorm. Relentless Whirlwind, Might of the Winds, and Celestial Discipline. I like these because they're all really, really cool. I think that they work very well for what we want to do. Wind's Edge and Can't Catch Me would both be fine, but I think that these 4 are your best options. So yeah, go with those. Now emotes, Through the Veil and Heavenly Guidance are fine. You could also go with Hallowed Ground, but I just don't have that one and I didn't want to waste any more steel. Solemn Bow and Bend the Knee. I decided to keep Bend the Knee just because, again, they are saddened by the death of the great angel. Yeah, I'm not letting that go. You could also go Horkos Trophy Head because, let's be honest, that just fits. All right, for signature, Serene Return is fine. Like, you don't really need a whole lot here. You could go with Sylvan Bonsai because the Blood Angels do like art. So you could go with that. You could go with That's the Tea. You could even go with Otohime's Tail. So all those are fine. But honestly, Serene Return is just fine. If you don't feel like going into a lot of signatures, Serene Return works. For effects, please have Rising Suzaku. If you do not have Rising Suzaku, you are in trouble because Rising Suzaku is the best. Why? I'll tell you why. Because there is one Blood Angel in particular named, I believe it was Mephiston. Mephiston is one of the greatest psychers in all of the Space Marines out there. So powerful is he that he can literally grow wings just like his dear old daddy, and this just works perfectly. But if you do not have this, if you do not have Suzaku, Rising Suzaku, there is one more option at your disposal. Here it is, finally found it. It took me a minute, but here it is. Incalescent Memory. I don't have this one on him, but it worked very well. And again, if you've read Dante, you know why this one works. You know why this one is a very good one. Like Dante from Ball, you know why this one works so well. Incalescent Memory is another good one to use, but that's only if you do not have Rising Suzaku. Rising Suzaku came out with the Kyoshin, so if you got this when Kyoshin came out, you're good to go. If not, go with Incalescent Memory. It is probably your best other option. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make a Blood Angels Kyoshin. What do you guys think? Will you be making your own Blood Angels Kyoshin? Well, I want to hear about it in the comments. Let me down below and let me know if you want to make that yourself, and we will move on to the White Scars Tiandi. This one was actually easy as pie to do. Of all of them that I've done, this one was the absolute easiest. I'll walk you through the process. First, Yangji Helm. Do that. Then Lamellar Chest and Yeshuo Arms. So let's go through it again. Yangji Helm, Lamellar Chest, Yeshuo Arms. Now you gotta do the lamellar chest because it's a solid chest, and that's what you really want to get this paint pattern on it just right. The hardest part for me was picking the helm, because a lot of the helms will not be pitch white like we want. So what I did was I used a helm that shows his face, and he could be like a very old White Scar who was familiar with the old ways of the Khan. He's just really awesome. And if you know anything about the White Scars, they are all very much like Mongolian warriors, and I just thought this looked very much like a Mongolian old fart, which I think works very well. For the weapon, you want the Invincible Ying Zhong Blade, Invincible Ying Zhong Hilt, and Invincible Ying Zhong Ribbon, because it is a naturally good white and red color scheme, which you want for the White Scars, because their whole thing is white and red. Pretty simple, right? For traits, default 1, but can you go, yeah, you could go female, but it doesn't look quite as good. You know, you really want male on this one. Skin color is default, although you could go even brighter. You could go that way. You could also go to the second tier, but you probably don't need to go darker than that, just because a lot of them are modeled off of Mongolian, so they're going to look a little bit more lighter skin usually, but it's fine. Do what you want. For chest and back, I went with the Fence 2 paint pattern and the Thunder Moon symbol. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. If you want to make a White Scar Tiandi, you need Thunder Moon, which you get in an outfit from Reputation 16. So you need Thunder Moon, because that lightning bolt looks almost perfect for the symbol of the White Scars. No embossing necessary. For the ornament, nothing. You don't need an ornament. Who needs an ornament for this guy? He's too cool for an ornament. He laughs at your ornament. Next, you go with Fence 4 for the right arm, for the right shoulder. The Thunder Moon again, no embossing. Repeat the same for the left shoulder. For the material, white iron. Because of course you need white iron. You don't need anything else. You could go iron, I guess, but really white iron's the best. If you don't want to pay for white iron, keep iron. It's your best bet. For standards, Fence 4, which you get right away, so easy enough. The Thunder Moon symbol again, no need for an embossing. And for the legs, actually this one's a little unique. Go with Invincible Protector 1. Invincible Protector 1, because I like that red line that runs down the middle. I just think that's a little nice. I think that's cool. And now for your paint pattern, wait for it. Blood Snow. Blood Snow, which you get from the battlefield in the Ice Brawlers during the Frostwind Nights event. If you did not get this from playing the Ice Brawlers, I'm sorry. I am very, very sorry, because this is honestly the best you're going to get in terms of color scheme. Just hope that they bring back Ice Brawlers and they bring back this paint pattern. That's what I will say. That's what I will say to that. There's another one that's very close, the Bloody Hidden Blade from the Assassin's Creed event. It is very, very, very close to that, and I do like it, so it is a good one to use. But again, if you didn't play the Assassin's Creed for the Creed event, again, I'm sorry. You gotta be playing the game. But this is probably the best you're going to get, and this creates a really nice White Scar. All right, for your feats. Honestly, I didn't go into a great deal of the feats because I think that what Tiandi already has is perfectly fine. For the executions, Typhoon Punishment, Atonement of Shido, Spiral Ending, and Monsoon Frenzy. I chose all these because of how fast they are. You don't want any of Tiandi's slower executions like Tianding or Keep Trying or Yiru Fenjiang. You don't want those because those take too long. And if there's one thing the White Scars are all about, it is speed. These guys want to take care of things quick and get out quick. They are a hit and run unit, so you want those fast executions. Emotes, watch and learn, and it's just dirt. One thing that I always get one thing that I always like about the White Scars is the idea that they kind of look down on a lot of other Space Marines because they're just kind of this opinion that really, they are very pragmatic Space Marines. So I think that it's just dirt. Them kind of looking down at everyone else is kind of funny. Then combat, sword spin, and after you. Pretty simple, not too complicated there. Signature, saddle up. Because they want to ride their horsey. They gotta ride the horsey. They gotta go fast. Let them go fast. So saddle up is your best option. And then effects, you don't really need anything. I guess Thunderous Rage might work for executions, but you don't really need anything. They're not going to really need that bad. So that is what I would say for that. And that is how you make your White Scar Tiandi. Are you going to make your own White Scar Tiandi? Let me know down in the comment section below. Let me know if that's something you plan to do. Really look forward to hearing about it. And now we move on to the last one. The last one that I've made so far. Thousand Suns Medjay. Now, this one was actually very funny, and it's kind of what got me started on this whole creative thing, was because when the Destiny event happened, I looked at it and I said, this is Warhammer. Like, this is a Nietzschean cult attacking Heathmore. And when I saw some of the designs and stuff, I said, okay, I've got to make a Thousand Sons character. But Thousand Sons really like that Egyptian aesthetic. So I said, Medjay, you're about to become a Thousand Sons. And Medjay said, what? But he's okay with it now. He's fine with it. Here, I'll show you how fine it is. How fine he is with it. Here, take a look. So you want the deputy helm. Well, okay, maybe not the deputy helm. I shot the deputy, but not the sheriff. Wait, I think I'm still in trouble for that. Anyway, the deputy helm, the deputy chest, and the originator arms. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Now, the reason I chose the deputy helm is because of that eagle look, and Tzeentch is all about his bird boys. For the weapon, now this is interesting. I went with the Deceitful Summons right head, but if you played the Destiny event mode, Almighty Guardian right head is even better. If you can get the Almighty Guardian set, that one's even better. But I'm showing you this one for now, the Deceitful Summons set, because if you did not play the Destiny event, this is your best bet, because again, it's very Egyptian, which is what we like. But if you get the Almighty Guardian set, that is even better. Go with that. Okay, now, for the traits. Honestly, just go with whatever skin color you feel like. It's not going to matter all that much because Medjay is pretty dark skinned regardless. So it really doesn't matter what you go with here. For the head, I went with the Timeless Grandeur 2 set. Makes a nice little scraggly line along the side of the mask, which I like. No symbol, no embossing. For the ornament, go with Power of the Baron, which you get from the Light of the Guardians event Illustrious outfit. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, if you did not get that outfit for Medjay, I'm sorry. You can go ahead and end the video now because you're not going to have a lot of what you need. For the right shoulder, nothing. For the left shoulder, nothing. For the material, gold. You want a lot of gold. Gold is very important in this video. For chest and back, nothing. For standards, you want the Timeless Grandeur 2 again because doesn't that just look nice? It just makes me think of chaos. And then no symbol or embossing. Pretty easy. For the color scheme, again, you need the Power of the Baron, Light of Guardians event Illustrious outfit. Again, if you did not get this limited time thing, I'm sorry. I said in a few of my streams that you may want to get this if you want to make this character, but hey, you know, I'm sorry. There's another option. You can always go with Invincible Leader 2, which is pretty close, but Power of the Baron is probably going to be what you want for this next setup. Now, for feats, go with his basic. There's not a lot here. Because the thing you got to remember about Medjay is he's a little magical. Medjay's a little magical. He gains power from breaking apart his weapon and putting it back together again. He can lower your defense and attack just by punching you a little bit. He gains a damage reduction and damage buff based on his executions. He can heal himself and others based on which kind of weapon he's holding. And he can either throw a bomb at you or throw both of his hatchets at you and magically get them back. The boy's a little magical already with his basic feats. For executions, Nephrika's Decree. Just add oil. Void Feather. And Pharaoh's Judgment. Now, I chose Nephrika's Decree and Pharaoh's Judgment from his basic ones because it shows a lot of power and austerity and a definite awesome use of the weapon in its different forms. Just Add Oil I chose because I could kind of see Thousand Sons pouring the special oil right down on your face and treating it as some kind of magical concoction. And then Void Feather because he summoned an ethereal bow to shoot you. And if there's any Chaos Legion that's going to do that, it's going to be the Thousand Sons. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Because the Thousand Sons are all about that magical heresy. Emote, Staff Spin, welcome to my domain. You can go with Staff Spin, but welcome to my domain is actually relevant. You need that one because that's exactly what a Thousand Sons would do. Just welcome to my domain. I wish that I could make you a Emperor's Children too, because that's exactly what they would do as well. But we'll save the Emperor's Children for another time. Free Roam, Tribute to the Throne, and I Am War. I think those are all fine, especially since he summoned a sword right there. Like, again, magical. For signature, Proud Descendant is just fine. Go with that Proud Descendant. It's okay. You can go with that one. And finally, Power of the Baron effect for everything. And again, this is why I said, if you did not get this illustrious outfit with the event, I'm sorry. This one's probably one you're not going to be able to make. But it is a very good Thousand Sons Medjay. So, what do you guys think? Did you get all the stuff you need to make the Thousand Sons Medjay? Will you be making the Thousand Sons Medjay? Let me know down in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you actually think of other ways to make Medjay here at Thousand Sons, let me know, and I'll love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you don't want to make him a Thousand Sons. Maybe you want to make him a Necron, because the Necrons are all about that Egyptian stuff too. But whatever, we will deal with that another time. So that wraps up everything, and you're probably saying, Raven, there's a lot of other Space Marine chapters and legions and factions that you haven't touched on yet. You know what? You're right. I haven't yet. And maybe I'll make a part 2 where I make more. But right now, this is all I could make right now. And I don't have enough steel to make any more. So we'll have to stop there for the time being. But I look forward to making more in the future. Let me know if there's any more that you'd like to see, or any characters in For Honor that you think would make a good or decent member of said faction or Space Marine Legion. Would love to hear your thoughts. And thank you all so much for watching this exceedingly long video. And I will see you in my next video. Take care.